Welcome to the Father Focus podcast.
Father Focus.
Check.
Why are we talking about this? Why does it matter?
So shaping your kids into powerful people.
Bro, let that brother fly.
Check.
All right, let's
You
go.
ready?
All right, let's go. I was messing.
Welcome to the Father Focus podcast. My name is Jermaine Stewart. We want to thank you for joining us today. For those listening and all the platforms or watching on YouTube, we want to thank you. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast. We would love to have you be a part of the Father Focus team. With that being said, guys, how are you guys doing today? You guys all right?
What up?
I am cold, but we're doing all right.
You are cold. It is 1 degree here. I don't know what it is there.
1 degree. Well, it's
1
like
degree.
83 right now. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's about 40.
I'm the coldest.
So-
Nathan, how cold is it?
It is currently 19 degrees outside.
I knew I was the
Oh,
coldest.
man.
I'm the coldest. That's right. Too cold.
Yeah, that's really cold.
well,
1 degree is not
Literally, not figuratively,
Yeah.
but literally.
And always. Come on now. Don't hate.
good. Y'all need to go to the Sunshine State.
But yeah, I've been doing good. Life is good. Family's
Life is
good.
Everybody's kids are good. Wife's good.
Yeah, Harper had an asthma attack at school yesterday, so that was fun. Had to deal with that.
Oh, no.
And,
What do you do when that happens? You just go pick her up?
Well, I wasn't there, so hopefully the teachers know what they're doing. But yeah, they give her an inhaler. She has an inhaler she carries with her.
Okay.
So the thing about her is she does not want to slow down. Like she does not want to slow down. She's like, I am going to go hard like all the other kids.
100%.
And we tell her, we're like, listen, Harper, the other kids aren't battling through asthma. You are. You have to slow down. No, I'm not doing it. I'm fine. And then she literally pushed herself to the point to where she's on the ground, like heaving for air. I mean, she's always fine, but yeah. A few months ago, I had to carry her literally to the car because she was breathing. But usually, when she gets her inhaler, she's good. You know, I have the same issue for very different reasons. It's mostly because I'm just not in shape, you know. But
You got an inhaler? Does it help with that?
no, just my problem is I'm fat. You know,
Mhm.
that's my issue. I'm out of shape.
Yeah,
I'm
real
out of
fat.
shape. So fat, so fat,
Hilarious.
big
The
fatty.
good thing is you're only fat in the face, Nathan. Like,
That's
it's
true.
I'm just
No,
kidding.
my feet.
Your feet are fat.
My feet have rolls. Yeah, it's crazy. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow. We just went. somewhere.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. So today we want to talk a little bit about just, shaping our kids into powerful people, right? We know as fathers, we want our children to be powerful, to be successful, right? To be
Yeah.
influencers, right? That's very important. And what we do right now, we know it really matters. It leaves a lasting impression on our children. So we want to talk a little bit about that. With you guys, I want to ask the question: why does it matter that we as fathers, are intentional in discipling or shaping our kids? What would you guys say to that?
Man, I would probably just jump in there and say, why does it matter that you buy them a house or provide shelter? Why does it matter that you get them clothes or an inhaler? Because it's a matter of life and death is the honest truth. And the fact is that so many of us have kids and we're not really taking a lot of intentionality. We've talked about that in the past. And it's like, we have got to be intentional about doing it. It matters because it is about their life. It is about their future. It is that God has given us these blessings called children, these arrows, right, in our quiver, and we are to be the ones to sharpen those things. That's what discipling ultimately is. And the fact of the matter is that if it matters in another sense, because they're going to learn. Kids want to be influenced. They need to be influenced. That's the way in which they grow. And if we as the primary figure in their lives that God has put in their life, if we're not mentoring them, guess what? They're going to go somewhere else and find it. They're going to be
Right.
influenced by someone. And if it's not by us, it'll absolutely be by someone else, by their friends. And that's something that I'm jealous over. I want to be the one to influence their life and to help navigate what they're doing. And I think we all feel that way, like instinctively, we want to be that. And so to be able to shape and mold the life is one of the greatest responsibilities that God has given any of us.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say it's actually a part of our core identity as fathers, and if there's moms listening, I mean, by default, you are shaping your kids, whether you're doing it intentionally or right. It's the natural relationship between parent and child. You can look at that from any perspective, even from the animal kingdom. Kids learn through observation, right?
Yeah.
They learn based on the environment and example that parents set. So I think it's not, the question is whether you're shaping your kids, or it's more so what are you shaping your kids into? I think that's the question we have to be asking ourselves. A lot of times parents are like complaining about their kids' behavior, but if they were really honest and evaluating, much of their kids' behavior is directly based on what the parents do on a regular basis.
Exactly.
So they're repeating all your weaknesses, all your failures, all your triggers, all your mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that one
Isn't
hits
that
hard,
sometimes like with your kids, like if they act the way you act and they respond the way you respond, or isn't it sometimes like, oh my gosh.
It happened the other day. It happened the other day with Brooklyn. I don't remember what I said. I don't usually curse. I'd be very rare if I do, if ever. But I'll say things like, "Oh, this sucks," or "That's a bunch of crap," or whatever it is.
Yeah, Christian curse words, right?
Yeah, sure. And and then the other day she said something, and I said, "Brooklyn, you're not supposed to say that." And literally, this kid goes, "Well, you say it. Why can't I say it?" And I'm like,
calling you
"Oh,
out.
frick." And then I'm like, "Wait, don't say that either."
Say that either. Thank you. I just handed her another one.
She's like, "Oh, I like that one. I'm going to tell that one to my teachers."
But it's real. And then Harper's been saying, "What the?" And she won't say anything after that. And I'm like, Christina, you need to come get your daughter and stop saying "what the" all the time, because one day she's going to fill in that blank somewhere, But I think that's just the reality of the relationship we have with our kids is we are shaping them. They're always watching. And I think they are looking for a model to follow. And so, man, what an opportunity, what a motivator to realize that we do it instinctively without realizing it. So why not put some intentionality behind it?
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, that's so good, because we're shaping them. What you guys are saying is our responsibility, and we're shaping them whether we realize it or not. Right. Right. That's the process. That's the role that we play as fathers. It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
So if we know we are to disciple them, we know that we are wanting to be intentional, and we're doing that. We're shaping them whether we realize it or not. We want to be intentional about that. When is the right time? Right. So when is the right time to start discipling your kid? Is there an age? What do you guys think about that?
Today.
Yeah, no joke, bro. No joke.
Today, and I say that very intentionally.
Today, Junior.
Oh yeah, Louisiana water boy.
No, that's Happy Gilmore, right?
That's water boy. You from Louisiana?
Billy Madison.
That's where you're from.
You're getting your Adam Sandler movies mixed up, but it's okay.
Today, Junior.
But seriously, today, if you have kids that live with you, if you have time with them when you're listening to this podcast later today, tomorrow morning when you wake up, like, there's no perfect time to influence someone's life except the moment you have right now, and I think we think about this term in such intimidating ways, because we think discipleship or formation or shaping our kids has to have this really formal approach. But many of the things that our kids have learned from us, hopefully the good things, have been more caught than taught, through observation, hopefully through our example that we've modeled for our kids. Like, one of the things that's really important to me and Christina is that our girls have confidence in who they are. I feel like so many girls struggle with those insecurity issues, right? And that plays itself out in so many ways, right? Either picking the wrong guy, dealing with eating disorders, body dysmorphia. I mean, you could just go down the list of things that girls go with, or the extremes of they feel like they have to flaunt what they have to get a guy's attention. All of that's rooted in insecurity. So it's so important for us that our kids have confidence, that they know who they are, they know their value, they know their worth, and they don't have to shrink down or water down who they are to be accepted by people. And so we try to model that, like we're very careful about what we say about ourselves. Like Christina, one of the things she says is we don't use the word fat in our home, not because it doesn't apply. I mean, I'm sure it applies in certain situations, but more so because we don't want our girls to adopt language about themselves that doesn't speak to their confidence and value as women. So it's like little things like that we do, that we watch what we say, we watch how we live. We're very careful to speak about ourselves, things that build us up, because we want our girls to know how awesome they are. That's not something I sit down and say, hey, Harper and Brooklyn, just so you know, me and mommy don't use the word fat because blah, 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 blah.
Right.
We just choose to live in a way that we hope our girls will model, and we're continually building that into them. So I think that's something you can do now, as a parent, like starting to look at how are you living? How are you speaking? How are you interacting with each other? Like, are you modeling the type of behavior, lifestyle, mentality that you want your kids to have? Because that's who they're becoming. Not what you say. That old adage, do what I say and not what I do. That never works. It never works. Your kids will always repeat your behavior and example. So I think we can start today looking for opportunities to model and teach wherever we are and whatever we're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that modeling, Nathan, do you or Jeremy, do you guys feel like when we say model, do you feel like parents often don't want the responsibility of modeling? Take the responsibility upon themselves to really take their life and their actions into account? Or do you feel like that they just feel like totally inept? I mean, what would you guys say? Like, why do you feel like parents are nervous when we mention this modeling piece?
Honestly, it probably has to do with mistakes. It's the same thing that drive parents. Like you look at, there's been a good amount of studies done on the baby boomers and the depression babes. So you have in the 1920s when you had the stock market crash, you had the Dust Bowls coming, and you had extreme poverty. And so that's the way a lot of some of these people were raised. And even in the baby boomers, they themselves, they went out, they just felt by the strength of muscle, they could give their kids what they never had. And so some of it is motivated, I think, by giving to your kids something that you have never had. So when it comes to discipleship, and I guess how I would kind of like try and connect those dots at least, is that sometimes we're afraid to do things because we don't want to mess up our kids. Like, for instance, I know people who, and this is so foolish, they will not give their kids rules because they don't want, they felt like because their parents were so tight on them and there were so many rules, like, well, I don't want my kids to grow up like that. Well, that's foolish because rules actually equal freedom. Because when they know the guidelines, they have freedom to function within those rules. So it could be in a positive way, like, okay, I want to give my kids things I never had. My parents never taught me the gospel, and they never taught me, well, my parents did. I'm just saying hypothetically. But it could be used positively, like, oh, I didn't have this, I want to supply this, or it could be negative and kind of maybe even more hands off or doing things in a negative way. But like Nathan was saying, and we've said in the past on past episodes, and I would encourage everybody to check them out, but to be intentional. Intentionality is the key to raising our children. It's the key to raising up kids who are going to be successful in life. And obviously there's a lot of different meanings whenever we talk about success, but generally speaking, to be productive members of society who are raising families themselves, we've got to be intentional about each and every one of those things. So
yeah. And if I could add one thing, I think we value the immediate over the long term. So we think about what we need now, whether it's We need to go to work, or we need to make dinner, or we need to put the kids to bed. And so for us, like formation or
you need to check
discipleship or
your
shaping
phone
our kids,
right then and there.
right.
Mhm.
Oh man, I heard a powerful illustration about this kid's mindset. They were looking at their parents, and in their mind, they said, I wish my parents held me and cared about me the way they do their phone. And man,
Wow.
when I heard that statement, I was like, dang, that is like heavy and intense and so
Yeah.
motivating. But I think, like we just think so much, we go from moment to moment because of our busyness and our lifestyle and our schedule, that we don't think about that formational piece, right?
Mhm.
Like, have you guys heard that quote? It says the days are long, but the years are short.
Yeah.
And so you think, I'll do it later. I have time later. And then you look 5 years down the road and you haven't done anything. So I think that point I try to make about starting today is really important. But I remember I sat down with a dad one time. He asked to speak with me when I was a youth pastor about his son who was just having like all these issues. And I remember he sat down with me. He was like, he's dealing with this and he's doing this. And I asked him, like, how long has this been going on? He's like, oh, it's been going on for years. And I said, how's his relationship with God? He's like, it's okay. He comes to church. He seems to like it or whatever. And I said, how much time do you spend teaching him about a relationship with Jesus? And he was like, whoa. I mean, I thought that was your job. Like, I don't know how to do that. And I said, it's actually really simple. It's just sitting down with him and saying, hey, come join me while I read my Bible and pray and just do what I do.
Right.
And he said, but I don't know how to pray. And I was thinking in my head, like, and not in a judgmental way, but like, man, this guy has been in church for most of his life, and he's telling me he doesn't even know how to lead his son in a simple prayer. And I was thinking, where is the breakdown? And it's probably a generational thing. It probably was never modeled for him, right? So it's intimidating. But where's the generational breakdown that things that are so simple feel so overwhelming that we can't even start with the basics?
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I think for some people that might be listening, for them, it feels intimidating. Like, man, forming human beings into powerful people feels so far beyond me. I don't even know where to start. Start with what you know. Start with what you're good at. Start with what you think are strengths in your lives. Like, there's probably going to be some things you need to delegate or pull in some other people into your life to teach your kids some things that you don't know well. That's great. But every parent has some good values and some good disciplines that they can pass on to their kids. I think it's just as simple as sitting down as, what are some things I'm really good at that I can give to my kids, and just start teaching them the basics. For us and for all of us, I know as pastors and dads, like, spiritual formation is important. So teaching our kids to know God, understand his nature and character, read the scripture, pray, hear God's voice, things like that. But it's simple things like giving your kids self-discipline, or teaching your kids not to punch their sibling in the face when they get mad. There's just simple things we can do with our kids that everyone knows, and we think it's too simple. Start with what you know. I think
Right.
that's huge.
That is good. So what would you guys say what do you say to the parent who's out there who does feel overwhelmed, the mom or the dad? And as you said, Nathan, they didn't have it modeled for them. You spoke to it a little bit about just starting with what you know, but what about the weaknesses? What about the areas that we're weak in? Like, let's say you're the parent and you have few things you're good at, but there's a plethora of things you're like, I'm not good at this, and I don't feel like I can speak to this, or I can lead in this way. What would you all say to those parents that are listening?
I'll say one thing quickly, and then I'll let Jeremy chime in. There's actually a study done on what kids need to have a faith that lasts, because I think studies tell us about 70% of kids that grow up in church or their whole life leave their faith, walk away from God when they get into college. And what they found is you need 6 voices in your kid's life. So the parents are 2, or if you're in a single parent home, it's the mom or the dad or whatever. You need 6 voices that have influence in your kids' lives to help them keep a faith that lasts. And if we use that same principle and idea in any area, who are the people outside of your kids' immediate circle who you have a connection to that you can start pulling them into? And I mean, I've seen some people do this with such intentionality. Like, I know one guy who said he had his son meet with someone who he considered excellent in his 20s, and then someone else in their 30s, someone else in their 40s, someone else in their 50s, someone else in their 60s. He literally set up interviews with his son with these men of consequence, men who had been extremely successful in their fields, and he had his son just sit down and ask questions. Like, that's a good place to start. pull other people in if you feel like you don't know what to do, or if you see a weakness in your kid, who's someone you know that has that strength, and pull them in to your kid's life.
Good. So good.
I don't think you can add any more to that.
It's so good.
Great response. That's
Yeah.
actually what I was going to say, honestly.
Yeah.
But just obviously, your question, Jermaine, was if you don't know what to do, hypothetically, or let's just say you are a single parent, and I'm assuming most of the people listening to this are going to be single or going to be fathers. So again, assuming that maybe some of you are going to be single dads. I know a couple. I know that's a little bit more rare. To not have the mother involved, but it does happen. I know a couple of situations where there are dads who are exclusively raising the sons, but I think that's the goal. It's that no one person can completely raise another person. There's going to be other people involved, whether it be coaches and think about this. And there's no condemnation to anyone wherever you're at, but think about it. You send your kids to school for 7 hours, 5 days a week. That is an extreme amount of time that all these people are getting influenced. So it's like, where are you allowing your kids to be influenced? They are. So Nathan, you were citing that study. Well, the reason 70% of people are leaving the faith when they go to college, it's because they are actually already being indoctrinated. They're already being discipled by Caesar. Why are people so afraid that when they're turning out to be Romans? So the fact is that they're going to school, they're going to public schools, and we have to war against that. And then they're going to these public universities where they're saying God is dead. So no wonder they're leaving. For me and my house, we're declaring Jesus as Lord and over all the earth, and we're raising them to slay giants. I mean, that's really what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, Jermaine, answer your question. I think it has to do with going on the outside, just like Nathan was saying, but be extremely careful with who you give that influence to. So,
and I would just say, I don't know if you guys agree with this, but I would say as parents to encourage people, you have a disproportionate amount of influence over your kids if you'll utilize it and wield it. You know what I mean? Like as your kids get older, you're not going to have 7 hours a day with them. I think by the time a kid gets in high school, you have like maybe 2 hours of FaceTime with them a day, maybe. You know what I mean? But I think even 30 minutes of intentional time with your kids has such the potential to influence them more so than the 7 hours they have with their friends or the 5 hours with their teachers or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like, because we carry a spiritual authority in our kids' lives. So my point is that some people might say, well, I don't have enough time to do that. For you as a parent, you carry such a weight and authority in your kid's life. That's a spiritual principle that can't be discounted, that if you were to even invest a meager 20 to 30 minutes a day, I think you'd be shocked at the amount of influence you'd have in your kids' lives.
Yeah. I heard an illustration like this. If I were to pay you, I'm trying to remember exactly how it goes now, but if you were to go to Ruth's Chris, Fleming's, get a really nice steak, and I only gave you a tiny piece, right? You'd be like, what the heck? It's only, and I'm like, wow, it's just I get the idea, and I'm not trying to contradict what you were saying, the 30 minutes, because I do think that's important. But I also think, especially parents who have young kids, don't push them to be out of the house too much.
Yeah, for sure.
Because when they get older, that's what you have just conditioned them to do, to be out. So I say when they're in high school, they should love to be home. They should love to be with you because you have spent that time. You're doing things that they want to do. You're being involved in their interest. But, right now, one of the things that I'm battling, so my son's playing 2 sports, plays football and baseball, seasonal. And then my girls are in dance and they play baseball. So we picked these 2 activities that they could do throughout the year. And he's got some friends who are pressuring him, and even their dads are pressuring me to let him play basketball. And I'm not like, and honestly, my goal, and this is what I tell him, I'm like, no, he's 8 years old. I don't need him playing sports all year around. I need him to be at home with me. And so I'm like trying to be, and I'm aggressive about it. I'm like, no, like these are the days you're staying home with me. And I actually even have my wife and I, we have some rule or some kind of principles in our house. Like one of the things is we do our best
Right.
to be in the house at least 4 or 5 days a week, 4 or 5 nights a week. We're home together, and then we have a little bit of play. Now that doesn't always work if we're traveling, things of that nature. But
Right.
I would encourage anyone out there to start conditioning your kids now to spend a lot of time with you and to gain that influence, win that influence, pray with them, watch books, read books, watch TV, have fun, have fun with your kids.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's good.
It's so good.
That's good.
Yeah, that time, TIME, right? It's the way we've heard that you can spell love, especially with your kids, is TIME,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And spending that time and giving them that time. So thank you guys for reminding us of that. That is so good. To the parents out there listening, to the fathers, your time, right? Your greatest asset is your time. And so that time into your kid, into your family, you will not regret it. And that's so good, because again, later on, like we said, we're conditioning them one way or another. We're conditioning our kids. And so that's so good to be reminded of that. So thank you guys. So we've talked about the importance of being intentional and our role and the influence that we have and why it matters that we disciple our kids. When is the time? The time is now, right? No time like the present. So what does discipleship look like in a family environment? So in your family context, right? Practically, what does that look like?
Yeah. It's funny, when our girls were really little, I had all these ideas about these like really formal things. Like, we're going to sit down and I'm going to go scripture by scripture through the Bible. And I'm going to
because they're going to sit there that entire time, right? They go
the meanings of that. Or like, there's been times where I'm like, hey girls, come, let's watch this, this Bible movie together and let's talk about the meaning. Or during Christmas time, I'm like, hey, let's read this book. And like, literally, I get 2 minutes and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so boring. This is the worst. I hate this. And I'm conflicted, because I'm like, well, I know my kids need to hear this stuff, but at the same time, I don't want them to hate time with me and time with God. so I'm like conflicted. So at some point I just said, all right, I got to revisit this. So I'm going to pull back a little bit and rethink this. And I kind of had this revelation. I might've heard it from somewhere, but I was thinking everywhere I go with them is an opportunity to disciple them. It doesn't always have to be in these really formal moments. So for me, it was like, hey, Brooklyn, I'm going to Home Depot. You want to come with me? And I'd usually have to take a little enticing. Like, I'd be like, I'll buy you a candy if you come with me. Or, hey, Harper, I'm going to the store. You want to come with me? I mean, literally, my kids love being home. Great. Actually, they love being home. They love playing together with their toys down the basement. I mean,
that's awesome.
This gigantic toy room. It's literally filled from corner to corner with their toys. And then they tell me they don't have enough. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. But I look for opportunities in kind of everyday life, or like I'm doing yard work or whatever it is. I'm like, hey, girls, come out and help me, or just little things. And I think like as we do that, I'm just asking them questions about their day, their friends. And sometimes it's really cool, the conversations we have as we just kind of go about our daily life. Like, they'll tell me about a friend at school or something they're feeling, or sometimes they have these really cool things that they experience with God that I didn't even know happened. And so I think those are the kind of moments I really try to lean into as a dad, instead of just trying to like cram it down their throat the way I want it. And I think I don't know if you guys deal with this as dads, but I think sometimes I get a picture in my head about the way things are going to go. And I literally try to force everyone else to get on my agenda, instead of realizing they're 7 years old. They probably can't do what I want them to do yet. Right. And adjusting my plan so that it's actually helpful, and not just me feeling like I accomplished something and my family thinks that was the worst thing ever. I never want to do that again. So I think I've tried to adopt this mentality of, hey, let's figure out the things we do every day, and let's kind of lean into those in a way that helps form and shape them. And so we do. So in addition to that, I think I mentioned this in other podcasts, we do time alone. Like tomorrow, we're taking the girls out one-on-one. We do family night together on Mondays. We do stuff as a family together, and me and Christina are intentional about asking questions, but it's not always like,
I'm glad
really
y'all don't do it on
Sundays,
thing. Nathan.
No, we do not. So the reference point is my dad growing up forced us to have family day on Sunday. And it was just so weird because I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't have any friends over, and we were just stuck in the house. And my parents were in
I
their
used to be able
bedroom.
to come over. I came over a few times.
Oh yeah, I think I begged them for like
your
literally
family,
months.
Jeremy. You're Jeremy. Your family.
Yeah, basically.
His mom liked me. His mom always liked me.
Yeah, she did. So anyway, my point is I think the moments that you do have, lean into those instead of just waiting for perfect opportunities.
That's good. Honestly, I can't. Again, Nathan, you're smashing some home runs today, man. Hitting some dingers. I love it. And I honestly, exact same thing. And I don't know if I picked this up from being a youth pastor before I had kids as well, and wanting to. I think it was Chris Frith who, in one of his classes at CFNI, who said, "Hey, if you're gonna like mentor these kids, like just do it." Like go get a Coke with them, anything. So I kind of picked that up too, Nathan. I do have formal things that I do as well. Like I have printed out scripture cards, and I kind of some of the ways that I specifically learned, and I do that with them. My kids, or I have 5 young kids, really. 3 of them really are kind of at the point now where they can actually start cognitively start understanding. I got an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, and then a 5-year-old. And with the 3 of them, I really just take time. And honestly, Jermaine, you've encouraged me with this, and maybe you could talk a little bit about what you do as well. But to take specific times and talk to them about the Word of God, talk to them about different attributes. Sometimes I give them words of the day. Like I'll just talk about integrity. Like why is it important to have integrity or holiness? Or I'll talk to them about, hey, hard work. Because guess what? In the book of Proverbs, it says if you don't work hard, you're going to be poor, right? That's what it says. So I have these words of the day. I have scripture verses that I'll bring to them in a little bit more of a structured setting that we'll do. And I do my best not to make it boring. My kids have never told me it's boring so far. They actually kind of get a little kick out of it. But I
think
agree.
that's because you're so animated. You act out the characters, you dress up in the costumes.
I do.
You dress up for your kids?
I have actually. I have.
Go for it, man. Whatever it takes.
Yeah, man. Just to honestly.
His favorite is Adam and Eve. His favorite is Adam and Eve. Pre-fall,
Put them fig leaves on, my brother. Keep them on.
They it's post sin, so I'll just say I'm clothed. Anyway, so that's it, man. I just I try and take about 3 to 4 times a week where it's something specifically about Jesus. We pray. I get the great privilege of taking my kids to school every day. I take them to school. My wife picks them up, and every day when we go to school, we're praying. We have a road, the prayer road. They know when we get on this road, everybody starts talking. I start praying, and then I'll pick one of them every day to pray. And, we just pray for their teachers, pray for their friends, pray for family members, pray for the world, and, encouraging them. And we always end. And I said, hey, Lord, help us today to tell somebody about Jesus.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So good. Yeah. That's good that you guys are just saying, the informal, almost fuels the formal, right? It actually one lends to the other.
Sure.
Yeah. That's good.
And oftentimes we're thinking it's got to be this formal thing, but that's great reminders. Just as the time, spending time with your children, asking questions, involving them in what you're doing, Dad. I mean, sometimes our kids want to be a part and want to be around what we're doing, and sometimes they get in the way and actually slows down what we're trying to do. Right? I want to help you. I want to help you.
Especially with the questions.
They
have nothing to do with anything.
Why are you doing that? I just answered that question like a minute ago. Why are you asking me again?
Yeah, exactly.
Like we're laying floors in the basement, me and my friend Mark, and they come down there and they're like, "Oh, Dad, what are you doing?" "Oh, I'm doing this." "Oh, that's cool. Well, why are you doing it that way?" "Because that's the way it's supposed to be done." "Oh, okay. Well, when you're done with that, what are you going to do next?" And I'm like, what is this, 50 questions? Like, I'm literally sweating. I'm hot. Like, I don't feel like doing this right now. And they're like,
they're probably like, hey, can we have some ice cream? We don't have any. We'll go to the store.
You're right.
I say, hey, go to Jeremy's house. He'll put some on the ground for you, and you can just lick it up.
Lick it off the ground.
There you go. No, that's the thing, I didn't do it.
Yeah, just spending that time with them, because sometimes, it's hard when you're time sensitive, right? Or you got to redo what they've done, right? They're going to go and
man,
that's the
it's so hard,
and they make more of a mess than they do help you with what you're trying to do. But just giving them that time anyway, right? Slowing down, taking that time to involve them is huge. I mean, to them it's huge, right? To the child it's huge. that you're giving them that time to come alongside you and work and do those things. So one of the things I do is just try to, in that time, right, we have in the parables of Jesus, we see that, Jesus is teaching from everything. They're out and he's talking to farmers, or shepherds. He's talking to those who are architects or whatnot, builders, right? And he's using this language. We see him, a shepherd had 99 sheep, or a farmer went out to sow seed, or foundations. One person built the foundation on the sand, and the other, and he's using these illustrations. And what I've tried to embody is the same thing with my family. It's like trying to, in every day. I think it's T.D. Jakes that told. I remember Chris Hill was talking. The bishop, he was talking. He said everything preaches. You should be able to preach. He'd point to different things and say, "Tell me about Jesus in that." And he was sitting in the passenger seat, and he had to give like a illustrative sermon on a straw or a cup.
But again, that's TD Jakes, bro.
I know, seriously. but he was conditioning his youth pastor. He was just saying, and what I took from that was that, man, we can point to Jesus in anything if we just take the time to slow down and look. And so, and we see Jesus as an example, right? And he's doing that. And so I try to embody that with my family and my kids, of just, using this time and these opportunities to teach on, like, for example, we've been doing in this past month, we've been doing about sharing and giving. And my wife took our kids to the fire department. So we got these cookies and these pretzels or whatnot and put them in a little tin. And we took them to the fire department. Now, Elisa, my third child, she's like Nathan's, he mentioned she's driven. Everything's done 200 miles an hour. You know what I mean? Like, you're in my way.
That's my kind of girl.
You know what I mean? Like, you're in the way. Like, I'm going to, she always has to be in the front. She always wants to lead. She's like in the car, in the driver's seat, trying to start it, like, sit down, like she, not literally, but she is super driven. And so she goes right into the fire department. I want to go. And my older two were very reluctant to go in. And then once they go in, the fire department, they were so excited. They said, come on in. You can see the gym. They walked them through the whole, here's the gym.
That's cool.
They just showed them. They said, you guys want to see the fire department? You want to see the trucks? They got this crazy tour. And my wife kind of FaceTimes me. I'm at work and my kids are lit up. They're so excited. And so later I talked to them. How did that make you feel, right? You were afraid to go in there. What did your giving do to those firemen? And they were talking about how excited they were, and they just thanked them and they hugged them, and I said, didn't it feel good? How did you feel their response? How did their response make you feel? Right. And just talk to them about the significance of giving, right? Took that moment, just a few moments, to say the biblical principle of giving, right? And loving others. So we can take.
It sounds like your wife's doing all the work, bro.
She is. She does the heavy lifting. I just take all the credit. I just take the credit. Oh, so that was one of those times. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Moment. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So yes, such good stuff. Just to those out there who are listening, we want you to be encouraged, and remind you that, you can do this, right? You can do it. I know it can feel overwhelming. We know that it can feel intimidating, but God strategically, sovereignly put you there as the Father, knowing that you would be able to do it. So go for it. We've told you, start today. You've heard us say it. It's the simple things, right? It's not just in instruction that is super structured. And also, if you need help, find the help. Find someone. That was so good. Find someone that may be better than you are at a specific thing. Don't let insecurity keep you from helping develop your kid. If you or your child, if you don't know, find someone. Don't be intimidated. It takes as African proverb, it says, it takes a village to raise a child. And so find those 6 people Nathan was telling us. Find those 6 or more that can help you train up your child. Yeah. So it's super good.
It's good.
Any final words before we close out, guys? Anything you want to share?
I don't know, but I think I want to hear African proverbs all the time now.
No, yeah. Well, I don't know them. I just know
with an African dialect.
Oh no, we're not even going there. We want to try to get us in trouble.
I would just encourage people. Hey, listen, we have to do this often. Recalibrate your lives. We get so busy. Hey, maybe it's on every Sunday. Hey, maybe it's on Monday before you take your kids off to school. just recalibrate what you're doing in your life, analyze what you're doing, see, because everything you're doing has a trajectory, even if you don't know. Figure out what that is. Hey, and just make small adjustments. You're going to do it. You're going to do great. Ask God for help. And hey, we're all in this race together. So
Yeah.
You got it. You got it.
That's awesome. Again, we want to remind you all to feel free to share our podcast with family and friends. Give us a like online on social media. You can subscribe to our podcast. You can find it on all podcast platforms. We also are on Instagram. You can find us at Father Focus Podcast and on YouTube at youtube.com/Father Focus Podcast. Feel free to like us. Feel free to leave some reviews. If there's something that you want us to talk about, put it down there in the description. Hey, would you guys share on this? Or I have a question about that. We welcome the dialogue. Again, thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you for being on this episode of the Father Focus Podcast. Hope to see you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.